Have you ever wondered what it takes to successfully raise money? I have worked with hundreds of capital campaigns across dozens of industries, and I'm here to share with you proven methods for raising money in record time and at the lowest cost, while also obtaining capital at the lowest price. My name is Carl Dakin, and welcome to Motivated Money. Hello, this is Carl Dakin. Welcome to this episode of the Motivated Money podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about raising capital in a recession. But before we get to today's topic, I would like to do a shout out to any entrepreneurs who are already thinking about or planning their next capital campaign and ask you to consider being a guest on the Motivated Money podcast. If you would like to do that, please contact me at my website. Go to motivated.money. Again, that's motivated.money. And there will be a link there where you can let me know that you're interested in being a guest, and we can go through the details of being on a future episode. Now, for today, we're going to talk about raising money in a recession. And for some of you, you may have heard that the economic situation is bad and getting worse. And this is sometimes reaches a point of being so severe that it's called a recession. Now, there's been a bunch of political argument over what is the definition of a recession, because it's not politically good for the administration in office to admit that their management of the economy or any influence that they may have upon the economy has caused an economic situation that is getting worse. But for those of you who deal in the real world, who do not let politics tell you what the truth of the matter is, we are in a recession, and it's expected to increase in severity going into next year as the Fed increases interest rates in an effort to slow down and stop inflation. And it is currently anticipated that although they've raised rates multiple times this year in 2022, they are going to continue to raise rates into 2023 in an effort to slow down the ever-increasing pricing of everything that you buy in the form of goods and services. And as commendable as this goal is, nonetheless, raising interest rates will itself contribute to inflation. When everybody in the supply chain who is dependent upon raising capital through debt financing find themselves in a situation where they have to pay a higher and higher price for money in terms of higher interest rates, this will show up throughout the supply chain, and ultimately it will drive up the cost of a product or service to the business or consumer who is buying that product or service. So even though raising interest rates will slow down purchasing because of higher pricing, it also will cause stress on anyone who is dependent upon debt financing for the operation of their business. And if you are getting ready to raise capital at this point in time, and you're looking ahead to a very gloomy and dark economic forecast for 2023 and potentially expanding into 2024, then you have to start looking at your capital campaign and asking yourself, is now the time to raise money? And in most cases, you are faced with a dilemma in that you need to raise capital, but this is the wrong time to raise capital because there are so many things that are going wrong. Think of a recession as everything in slow motion, meaning that what used to take a month might take 6 weeks or 8 weeks, or even triple or quadruple the amount of time necessary to get anything done, because there are more interruptions and slower decision-making taking place as everybody is trying to determine whether or not common operations will work, whether they need to engage in more conservative business practices, maybe they need to change their relationships, everything slows down. And at the same time, the amount of capital that's available is getting smaller because those people who have the discretion to make an investment or not, that is, they can wait and put off their investments till a later time, they are commonly making fewer and fewer investments. We have seen reports coming out of the angel and private equity market indicating that investments at this time in particular market segments are down 20 to 60% over the same time last year. This means there's less money being invested, less money for you to go out and seek. And again, this is going to impact how you go about raising capital in this distressed economic situation. Those investors who are sticking into their game or continuing to invest are raising the bar. That is, they are making the investment criteria more difficult to the point that it may be that you can no longer obtain capital from them, where a year ago you may have been considered a viable investor candidate for them, but today with the higher bar, then it's not quite as possible. And think of someone who's running hurdles in high school or the Olympic Games, where they can basically jump over a hurdle and continue running with little or no interruption. But now, say these hurdles are 5 feet high, and getting over a hurdle is more like a high jump than simply jumping over the hurdle. This is the kind of situation that you face when you talk to an investor who has set the bar higher. They may want you to be an older company. They may want more profits. They may want more maturity in how you go about doing your business. They may want a larger management team with greater seasoning that has greater capability of dealing with distressed economic markets. All these things are working against you as you're getting ready to raise money now. Now, in this podcast, what I present is my approach to raising capital. I call it motivated money. It is based upon trying to run a capital campaign in the most elegant and sophisticated fashion so that you can get through and succeed in your capital campaign quicker at a lower cost and get back to running your business. And in doing that, this is a strategic approach. It is very different from what is commonly expected and taught by a lot of people out there on raising capital, where they essentially tell you, go find somebody with some money, put together a very well choreographed song and dance about how good your company is, and hope for the best that you're going to attract the attention of that investor, and they're going to somehow be motivated enough to invest in your particular company. And even though the statistics during ordinary times are very, very bad, with angel investors typically investing less than 2% of the time in all the different deals that they look at, well, during a recession, as you can imagine, this gets worse, much, much worse. Instead of 2 in 100, they may be to 1 in 1,000. They may be approaching the same criteria that a venture capitalist uses, which is typically funding only 1 in 2,500 deals that they see. And so you have to figure out how to deal with that. And the motivated money approach to raising capital actually is almost perfect for a recession, in that because of its strategic approach, its focus upon people who are most likely to invest because they have the highest self-interest in making that investment. You may continue to raise capital during a recession by application of the motivated money approach. So let's talk about this a little bit more. So if you are targeting investor candidates, right now, there are still people who are making investments more selectively with higher criteria, looking for better deals, bottom feeding, vulture funds. There's a lot of terms people use where it's kind of a buyer's market. because they can go out and pick and choose what they want to invest in, and they're going to be seeking safer investments with higher rates of return because they are one of the few people still making investments. And angels make discretionary investments out of their own money. And right now, with the chaos in the market, the difficulty in understanding and predicting where the market is going to go and which parts of the market are going to get hammered and which ones may simply slow down and some may actually benefit from a recession, these investors find it safer to put their money in their pocket, keep it in their pocket, and wait till things stabilize. And this also goes for private equity funds who are managing other people's money, trying to find suitable investments. Because they're held accountable for how well those investments perform, they also are going to slow down, if not stop, in making investments until they feel that they can find an investment that's highly suitable, highly durable, one that will not make them look bad 1, 2, or 3 years down the road when an exit from that investment is intended to give some payback to the money that they are managing. So these investor candidates are not the ones that are most likely to invest, and they have now become potentially the least likely to invest because they have a single way of looking at your deal, and that's the return on their investment. And since the return on the investment is now speculative, it's uncertain that you can actually attain the return that you had previously expected, they may downgrade it. They may say, well, you told me that you could get me a 10% rate of return. I don't believe it. I think in the recession, you're going to fare badly. So maybe you're only going to get an 8% rate of return or a 5%. Or worse yet, your business may not be able to survive this recession, and you have come altogether too risky for me to do anything about. So what we want to do with the motivated money approach is we want to zero in or target in on those investors who are most likely to invest, to continue to invest in your company during the recession. And you consider this a hyper targeting, more refined form of targeting that can take place. So, for example, if you would visualize a target for archery or for darts, anywhere on that target might represent a successful investment into your organization. But you want to focus in on the bullseye now. You want to focus in on those who are most likely to invest rather than just anybody who might invest. And these are investors that have a need for your organization to succeed because they need you to succeed in order for them to succeed. You are, in essence, an ingredient in their recipe for success. You provide a component, a product, a service of some kind, an outcome that may be achieved by the success of your organization that contributes to their business plan, to their goals, their milestones, and everything that they want to accomplish. Now, in the motivated money approach, we commonly go through an investor identification process, and we immediately move from everyone who has money to those who are stakeholders, those who stand to benefit from the success of your organization. But in this process, we refine it by prioritizing those investor candidates who are most likely to invest. And these are the ones, as I just described, who look at you and say, hey, I need that organization to continue supplying me with the products or services that allow me to do what I want to do. So if I'm building a house and this company is a lumber supplier, then they may need this lumber supplier to succeed. And if the lumber supplier is looking to raise capital now in the recession, one of the people they should be talking to are the people who are building homes. There's a natural relationship, a strategic relationship between the home builder and the supplier of lumber or any other product that goes into that house. Last week, I was informed of a decision by an oil and gas company who bought up a concrete company because they needed to assure a continuous and reasonably priced supply of concrete for the casing of new oil well drilling. And in this case, they did an outright acquisition rather than an investment. But at the same time, this same company might have bought a controlling interest or invested into the company in a way. And for the concrete company, if they were out looking for money right now, they would say, hey, who needs me to be successful in what they do? Where have I become such a rarity, such a novelty, unique position in the marketplace that my continued existence is essential for the success of some other organization? And those people now represent the highest possible priority investor candidates that you may look to. Other examples are in communities where I'm working with workforce housing. They want to recruit in businesses to come into their communities as a way of bolstering the local economy. I talked to the head of one economic development agency last year. They had just secured a commitment by a California company to come into this city in Colorado, and they're going to bring lots and lots of jobs with them. However, this has become a problem for economic development agencies because there's no housing available. The current inventory shortage of housing, particularly for low income workers, is so severe that it may be impossible for them to actually do this move from one state to another, even though they've been recruited, even though they've been offered incentives. It may become a sheer impossibility for them to make the move if there isn't housing for their people to live in. And so in this case, again, this company is now going to an economic development agency, and they may need to ask for a greater incentive or a different incentive to say, hey, I want to come to your city. I would love to set up operations in your backyard, but I need housing. And if this economic development organization is not providing housing or isn't assisting this company in getting the housing, then it's not going to work. So in this case, a housing company could be teaming with an economic development agency as part of a grand master plan for doing recruitment in economic development. And that housing company could go to the economic development agency and say, I need funding, I need assistance, I need help in getting through the permitting process. All these different things that the economic development agency may offer in the form of capital resources could become available to this particular company. And this is what the motivated money approach is all about. You stop, you look around, you say, here's what I do. Who needs me? Who needs me enough that they would make resources available to me if I ask for them? And if these people need me that badly, and it should so happen that they do not have the economic resources that I need, they will help me find those because it's in their self-interest to do so. And so strategic relationships, collaborations, thinking through your supply chain, thinking about local communities and how they benefit from your success, how certain social causes may benefit from your success. All these are stakeholder candidates. And more often than not, the most likely, highest prioritized investor candidate is going to be a stakeholder. And for that reason, as you go about doing your investor identification and trying to figure out who cares enough, who needs you enough to invest, even during a recession, they're going to be the same people. But in a recession, you may find that a relationship before where your product was one of many that person could turn to for meeting their goals on their shopping list, an ingredient for success, you may be the last company surviving in this area, or for some reason your product continues to be available at a reasonable price without all this inflation kicking in. And so you need to reevaluate everyone you know. And one of the phrases I use a lot is who loves you more than you love yourself. This is a phrase I tell and teach to entrepreneurs who somehow get it in their head that their company is wonderful because they're looking for capital, they're entitled to money. I heard several stories during the last week about different companies who are going out seeking capital with no rhyme or reason, other than the fact that they felt that because they needed money, surely someone would step up and give them the resources they need. And that's not true at any time, even when the economy is good. But during an economic recession, it's just completely wrong. And it's going to end up in a great waste of time and energy with nothing to show for it. So what we want to do in the motivated money approach is make this determination. Look at everybody around you. Think of the value that you bring to all these different companies. It may be monetary or non-monetary. It may be direct or indirect. But nonetheless, where are you important? Where are you the missing link, the critical key to success? Maybe the last defense against complete failure of a large, well-established business with massive resources, but somehow they don't have you and they need you in order to succeed. So this is the thing I want to get across in today's episode is that as we enter the recession, you as a small business or a nonprofit organization or a community project may find yourself where you still need capital and you do not have the option of shutting down or waiting or suspending operations till a future date. For you may need the money to keep your doors open. You may need the money to complete development and entry into the market of something you've been working on for a number of years. There's all kinds of things which are in motion, are going to cost you dearly and may even threaten the existence of your organization if you don't get more capital. And you need to raise capital even now, when now is clearly not going to be the best time to be raising money or any other form of capital. So today's topic is one of 5 episodes where I'm doing a solo broadcast. I do not have a guest, but it's a deep dive into the motivated money approach to raising capital. And it's particularly important now as the forecasts for the economy are getting worse and worse and worse. And as we're finding that certain sources of capital have stopped making that capital available, you have to kind of reshuffle your deck of investor candidates and rethink who's still in the game, who can still play, who can work with you now when you need capital, even under these worsening times. Future episodes, we will feature entrepreneurs who are designing and staging their own capital campaigns. And then these will include small businesses, nonprofit organizations, and certain types of community projects that may be run by a government program or a local economic development agency or be some kind of public-private partnership. And what we're going to do there is we're going to talk about how the motivated money approach can support and enhance their ability to raise capital. And then certain future episodes, we're going to bring in some experts on different aspects of raising capital. Some of these are going to be on different types of capital platforms, whether it's crowdfunding or accredited owner platforms. We may be talking about different types of support services that could include IT, legal, accounting, and other things. We're going to talk about some of the tax impacts of investment, of how you structure an offering that may be to your employees or all your personnel in the form of stock options, or it may be something dealing with more sophisticated strategies involving a whole life insurance, and so on. And then we'll deal with management of capital campaigns and back office management, things that you need to do in your organization that makes it easier, more efficient for you to deal with this new group of relationships, to deal with investors and investor candidates. And in some cases, we'll be talking about where we're causing customers to adopt the hat of an investor and become an advocate for your company and trying to get more value out of those relationships. So these are all things that we will see going forward. And today's episode, as I said, is one of 5 where we're trying to give you a deeper insight as to how the motivated money approach to raising capital works. And today we're talking about the fact that it may be one of the few or the only approach that will continue to work during a recession. For those of you listening in today, if you'd like to do some homework and apply the motivated money approach to your own organization, the first thing you need to do is make a list of stakeholders, as we've talked about in other episodes. And then you want to assign a value to them in terms of how much do they need you. Create a scale of 1 to 10. Those who need you most, give them a 10 or an 8 or a 9 if there's no one that needs you that badly. And those who need you little or not at all, give them a 0 or 1. And with this, then you can start to determine who loves you more than you love yourself, who has this absolute need and is willing to make an investment today, because not so much that they're trying to get wealthier or not so much that they're trying to get better, but they're actually preserving their existing assets. They're preserving everything that their organization is about. And if it should happen that without your help or assistance, without the sale of your product or service, they cannot continue to exist, then they are willing to invest and pay premium prices, that is to go to a higher risk, in order to help you grow and build your organization. And these are the ones that if you do a capital campaign, everything has to be focused on them. Your offering, your structure of the deal that you make to them, how you go about talking to them, how you go about communicating with them. It's all about them, because without them, there may not be a you. Now, last but not least, I do want to let everybody know that I am putting on a series of boot camps on raising capital using the motivated money approach. The next boot camp session will start on January 18th. It's a 10-week, 25-hour program, and it will help you design and stage your campaign, getting it ready to launch so that you have a higher probability of being successful in getting the capital you need to build and grow your organization. You can get more information on this particular boot camp at motivated.money. That's HTTP motivated.money. And there'll be information in there on what you need to do about getting on the boot camp as an attendee. And I'm also offering a discount to people who listen and watch this podcast. It's a 10% discount off the $2,500 price. When you sign up for the boot camp, use the discount term podcast, and that will get you a reduced price for the upcoming session. So that's it for today. Thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode of the Motivated Money podcast. I hope that you found this valuable and hope maybe comforting in the fact that if you're looking to raise capital as we enter the economic storm of 2023, yeah, it still can be done. It's going to be harder than it was before. But with the motivated money approach, you will have a strategic rational, logical approach to who to talk to about raising capital, how to structure your deal so that they understand why they need you. And this will lead itself to a positive conversation on that topic. So thank you. Take care for today. Bye.
Thank you for listening in to Motivated Money. If you like this or any other episodes, make sure to leave a rating and review the show. We love to hear your feedback and want to make this the best possible show for you. Also, if you like this episode, make sure you share it with someone you know who is seeking to raise capital. They will appreciate learning what you now know about raising funding. I'll see you on the next episode of Motivated Money.